place here. It's not triggering anymore. It wasn't even triggering. It was the scene of the crime. This will also serve as my session this week to come to the gym. Okay, thank you.
This will serve as one of your rest sessions.
Right. Hey y'all. Okay, so welcome to another episode of The Jump Off. As you can see, I am on location here with none other than, you know her, sometimes don't love her, Emily.
That's a compliment, actually. Yeah.
Okay. This one I did actually have to bring in an expert here for this topic. Today we are going to talk about rest. That is something that I have spoken about many a times and didn't listen to anybody and just continued to push through, and then some things happened and it wasn't good. So we'll get into all of that. First, I want to bring to the table the qualifications that Emily has to be here, because some of y'all will be like, okay, she don't know what she's talking about, but she does. Put some respect on her name.
I mean, fair. The internet does have a lot of this and a lot of that, but this is what I do. Anything to do with the body is my ministry. The topic of rest is probably one of the most important body-related topics to discuss. So, although here in the gym with my lovely clients, I'm pushing them and we're doing the opposite of rest, the equal part of their training is exactly that. Doing the rest and doing the right things, which we're going to talk about today. So it's not just the in here, it's the other equal piece that has to match.
We're going to shake it up and do some stretching while we talk, because that is what we need to do for our bodies.
Yeah, it's a great example. We're going to go over all the different examples of physical rest and how you can do it, but stretching is one of my favorite ways. I think it's like giving your entire body a big hug.
And it didn't look like that for me, but hey, that's why she's here, to teach us all something new. My question of the day, before we actually get into the stretching, what is it for you that gets in the way of you taking that time with yourself to relax yourself and to step away? Once you've answered that, then take a look at that and see how you can better focus on those areas this week. And then also take a look at your body and see, are there areas of my body that's not functioning properly, and how I can give love to those areas. Are your knees hurting? Your back? Your feet? Your wrists? I don't know. Give those areas of your body some love this week, because if you don't give them love, it may give out on you. Which brings me to, I'm gonna let you go first.
We'll get into one of our first stretches here while we get into it. Let's get the quads. Okay, so we're gonna hit every part of our body. So there's two versions of a quad here. We can go a standing quad, or you can do an assisted, like in a bench or something, or a chair behind you to stretch it on it, okay? But we're gonna get into a quad stretch. This is a little bit of balance. So if you're thrown off, find something that's not moving. Okay, so don't look at me, because I'm gonna move. Yeah.
Oh,
find
okay.
your,
I see what you mean, okay.
Yeah, and then focus on lengthening the quad. I like to hold each stretch, by the way, because we're gonna be talking, we probably won't be holding the appropriate amount of time and or too long. About 5 deep breaths. That's like the standard. So we want to dive into what happened, and then we're gonna reel back from what happened to, because here's the thing, we learn through life experiences, and I think one of the most valuable things about social media, and that was nice though. I almost caught the ankle, but
this side is rough.
My shoulder.
I think I got it. We both can't go down.
We both definitely will go down. We both go to this down. But no, I think that's the beautiful part about watching the jump off or these things on. I got you on social. But this is great because it's showing what area of your body needs more.
No, I got it. I got this. You can keep going. I got this. I'm gonna get this. Y'all not going to. No, I'm gonna get this.
You are. So yes, I'm saying is learning through beautiful, graceful. Learning through example, right? So, this experience we're about to share that Janice experienced, I also learned from, so that's why I think the beautiful part of sharing is learning, right? It's the best way to learn. So having said that, you ever hear the saying, if you don't sit down, your body will sit down for you? I might have just ad-libbed that a little, or remixed that a little bit. Essentially, think of it this way too. I love viewing the body like this, and you kind of touched on it by saying, are there areas of your body that have aches or pains that you need to listen to this week? And that is, our body's constantly sending messages. We can do a hammy like this, toes up. So our body's constantly sending messages, right? So right here in this hamstring stretch, I feel a nice little pull in the back of my hamstring. My body's telling me ma'am, it's a little tight. I'm gonna need you to stretch it more, right? It's constantly communicating to us, and we're constantly communicating to it. Maybe someone came up behind you and scared you, so then you tell you about the calm man, like it ain't, you know, that was just Janice who popped up behind me, like no threat, right? You think you could be, I gotta watch out for you. She could sneak up.
I am but a gentle dandelion prancing through the air. That was nice.
Dandelions don't prance. Not the. We can talk to our body too, it talks to us. But when you ignore what it's trying to say, aka in this situation, it's trying to tell you you need to rest. It is like leaving it on red. It is texting you. So what happens when that person who's maybe a little bit crazy keeps texting you and leave them on red? Well, they gonna FaceTime you next, right? And then if you ignore the FaceTime,
some of y'all need to
make some notes right here because you're doing that. And then you ignore their FaceTime, and then they're like, man, Janice ignored me again. Like, nope, that's it. I'm gonna be heard. If she's not answering my text or my FaceTime, I'm gonna be heard. So then they pull up to your doorstep, angry, and they knock on your door. And what is the knocking on the door? That is at the point where you've ignored the messages from your body so long. The wake-up call cannot be any louder than the ultimate message. So that is what happened. So our little dandelion who frolics through the what? What was
the
the
wind.
Our little dandelion here,
Francis.
It wasn't Frolic. I like Frolic. She is one of the hardest working people I've literally ever met. Don't, because she also doesn't take compliments. So we're just gonna ignore that. With the type of work ethic she has and the type of discipline that she has, sometimes, and I'm saying this because I'm also like this, or have been like this and learned from it, is you tend to filter out some of those messages, right? Because they just don't seem important and you're like, I got 8 important things I need to do. Body, that's not one of them right now. Like, we good, we got it together, our 2 feet are going in front of each other, like we're good, right?
Right.
So she was in a duration of time doing that.
Let's call a spade a spade.
Okay.
Like most people, I think you've said this before. Actually, she said it on her world-renowned show. What is it?
Working out.
Which is on YouTube. Link here. But you said that, why do we wait until something is wrong to go to the doctor or to check up on whatever the thing is? I don't go to the doctor. I wait until something is wrong. And so since nothing has really been wrong with me aside from like a cold or, those kind of things, I haven't been going to the doctor. I might go, for a regular checkup. But in this instance, I was already going at a good, fast pace.
Yeah.
And then it doubled because of the job that I had. So my time essentially went from being free, doing nothing, to doing the job and trying to do my own stuff and trying to do stuff for another person while also being in a play. It was a lot. And this was all in a month that I went from 0 to 10,000. It was a round the clock kind of thing. And then came in here to do a workout that I've normally done.
Yeah, very regular.
I swear I hit the door, and this was my first day, full day off. Music was blasting and I was like, yeah, this is great. But come to find out that wasn't the case. And so my experience of the events that followed in this moment were different than how it actually happened. For me, I came in, was doing the workout, and since I hadn't worked out that consistently in the last month, I just thought it was a little hard for me, and so I was just a little winded here and there, and then had a slight headache that normally I get migraines and whatnot, and I was like, I could push through. I've worked out with a headache before, boom, okay, cool. And then I don't know what happened, but somehow I ended up on the floor. They were talking to me and I thought I was responding. Next thing I know, I see the
paramedics.
They was finna cut my Marathon Continue sweatshirt because I couldn't get up, and now I'm in the hospital coming to. Essentially, I had a migraine that gave me stroke-like symptoms.
Mimicked the inflammation that it created, which again wasn't in an instant, it had been building, but the inflammation that it created did mimic stroke symptoms to the point of loss of consciousness. Yeah. And
I was like, that wasn't me. How I experienced that event was different than how everybody else experienced it.
Can I sidebar that?
Yeah.
It really correlates all this together. So that just shows and we're talking about physical rest in this, but this also shows how her mind, because we know the body and the mind have to work together, but her mind was in such a hyperdrive it was almost like her brain and her body had fully disconnected.
Yeah.
The body was the robotic thing that just had to keep going, and the brain was like this sergeant being like, work.
I really
right?
felt like if I was in a movie theater, I was in the last row. Like I was seeing the screen, but I was back there, and it was like they were talking to me. I'm like, yo, why y'all not? Come on,
and
somebody.
she wasn't actually talking, which is crazy. So in that moment, her body quite literally gave out to the point of like, there's no more out you can really get, right? And her brain in that moment, how she still, after all of it, like we talked after she recovered a few weeks later, and we talked, and I'm telling her, and she was like, no, that ain't what happened.
Right.
So her brain still was in that work, we gotta go. This girl, and I had to keep her down in the hospital because she wanted to get up and walk out and go do her work. And I'm like, ma'am, there's those things hooked up to you. You're not gonna do that. But that just shows the disconnect. The body literally hit its point of like, we can't take it. But the brain, even in the moment of the body experiencing that, it's the nervous system. And when you program, you gotta understand our body is programmed from our nervous system, right? It does not move and do what we want it to do, right? Unless the nervous system tells it to. The nervous system is coming from here, our brain, right? So essentially her body and her nervous system was what we call in a state of such dysregulation. Like it was not regulated.
Googled it.
Or it was, argument's sake, it was regulated into this hyperdrive, this very unhealthy, unsustainable, go all the time mode.
Yeah.
It can be referred to as fight or flight mode. It can be referred to as many different things packaged up in different titles. But the ultimate description of it is her mind and her nervous system was telling her body to go at such a rate with no rest that even upon the body expiring in that moment, her brain still remembers it and registers it as like, it was all good. No, it was just quick out, I was back, and then boop, rather than actually what happened. So that, number one, shows the power of the brain. Number two, shows the power or how just like alarming or like profound that disconnect can be. Like once your body and mind separate, no good things happen. I'm gonna be real. And that was that moment for you.
It took for me to look at the security footage of like, there was a moment where I like fell back and I'm just like looked like a dead body on the floor.
And it was
that me watching that, I was like, oh, that's not what I experienced, but it is what happened. I know that some of y'all are also, especially creative people, it's like, oh, I gotta do this. Even on the corporate side, like you have a lot of projects, you have deadlines, and it's different types of pressure. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to make this episode because I don't want to sit up here and be like, I'm 30-something and had an essential stroke.
No, but it ain't even about that.
But
anything can happen to anyone upon any moment of, we said, these ingredients. That was the one last drop needed for that to happen.
When I look back on that time, there were times when I wasn't sleeping. Like I have low iron, and so I was always falling asleep driving. And I'd be like, oh, it's because of my iron. But it's like, no, I wasn't sleeping at night, or I would sleep an hour and then have to get up and do everything. It got to this point where I was like, oh, I don't need sleep. I'm good. Like, I'll sleep later.
Right. Also, how many times have you even heard that? I'm not going to even say the names of the creators of the, like, if you're not up at 4 a.m. grinding after your goals, like, you are never going to be rich. You're never, like, there's such, what was the term? Toxic positivity?
Yeah.
So I love that term in terms of, like, no, you actually need rest.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone package up and sell to you that taking out rest is how you're going to get to where you want to go, because that could not be any further from the truth. Productive time, you're going to do more, and if you do the things that put you in an optimal state to be productive, aka rest and nurturing yourself and caring for yourself, then these short hours of productivity are way greater and will get you further than these hours of like, what the heck is going on mode.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Of just like, whoa.
You start to see the difference once you're stop operating in that Energizer Bunny type thing. So that's why I wanted to bring this to y'all, so y'all don't have to be down bad, how I was down bad. But it doesn't always have to look like this. There is burnout, because that's
burnout.
We didn't talk about that a million times. Yeah. But then there's also like physical, like I know you had an injury.
Yeah.
Those type, like you have to rest and now I've never like had any major things, but I hear that when you like break a bone or something of that nature, like it has to grow back. Or
the calcification has to happen to reform the bone. And that's the beautiful part too, is our bodies have this unreal ability to the point, like, I'm a science girl. I was, born and raised under a science
Listen,
background household.
Her dad,
right? So, but I'm also
I had an A in science.
That man.
Ship was sailed.
Check the episode where he be teaching us.
Yes,
too.
we gonna put that episode too.
Man, he taught us real quick. But anyway, you can, look at the science behind needing to take the time to heal. But the crazy part about it, as much as I can study the science of it, there's still a piece that blows my mind. As a human, our ability to heal sometimes doesn't even make sense. Like, there's people who have abused their bodies on multiple levels throughout their lifetime, and it still is there for them. I'm not suggesting you do this now. I think you need to take care of it, like, right now. Let this be the reminder.
Yes.
But it's just to the point of, like, our body has so much forgiveness and such an ability to heal, even when given an opportune, like, conditions. Imagine what it can do for you if you give it the right conditions. So healing, the ultimate part, what rest is all about is healing. And this episode, right, is physical rest. Again, she's going to talk about the mental side. There's healing on both of those levels too.
And your spiritual, your soul got to heal too.
Absolutely. It's a very necessary thing. And I think also with social media, the term healing is associated with something's wrong, right? If you're healing, you got trauma, right? And that's some, like, almost like thing to be ashamed of. Or if your body's healing, then that means you're weak. No, it's like, oh, well, I gotta take some time off. This part's really coming from a place of how I used to think. I was an athlete. I then was in this, like, fitness competition world. And weakness in that, in terms of physical weakness, is honestly getting off your routine. Both of those levels that I experienced in those two different industries was the highest level of discipline, physical discipline I've ever had. Let me tell you, it was the most unhealthy I've ever been. And that's because discipline does not equate, again, success in the world of these hustle mode, social media creators. But in this reality, it's discipline doesn't always mean that you're going to be your fittest or healthiest. Discipline is almost like the instruction manual or the plan you need to follow. Intuitiveness and listening to your body is actually the biggest strength you can have. I'm not saying don't have discipline. You got to have the discipline to hold yourself accountable to things that might not be what you really want to do in the moment. But knowing what your body needs and listening to what your soul needs, your heart needs, your mind needs, all of these things is actually the greatest strength. You needing to heal is a strength. It's not you acknowledging it and then doing the things is a strength, right? But I used to think, like, oh man, my foot hurts a little. No, I gotta keep practicing. I can't miss this race. I can't. Yep. I'm not weak. There's people who are going to catch up to me or get ahead of me or whatever it is, and then not take time off, right? To do the healing I needed to do, literally, physically. But by not doing that and continuing to just put miles and pound on my foot, I ended up with so many stress fractures, I lost count of them. Not only did I then have to stop, right, to take the rest, that was weak. I was broken down into being weak on literally that one side. I had to rebuild the muscle. By me not taking that rest, that was weak.
Yeah.
If I took the rest to heal, that was strength.
Yeah.
So you really got to switch that shit.
Yeah. And I think in our society, not enough people highlight that. Yeah. That is what I want for y'all, because again, I don't want y'all down bad, how I was taking extra time to heal your body, how Emily did.
But let's leave them with, though, the tool, like what type of rest.
Yes.
I think that's the...
Yes. What would you suggest on both sides for someone who is the athletic-esque type discipline, somebody maybe that's coming off of that type of structure and they have always been told to keep pushing, to keep going? What type of rest would you suggest for that type of person?
First thing I want to say to that is every single person is an athlete who has a body. That's a Nike, you got that quote, Bill Bowerman, okay? That is just like the
Y'all
mantra.
heard that Olympics?
Nah, but it really is, and that's actually how I treat everyone in the gym, right? And anyone I encounter can, like, leave a little bit of wisdom with, if you will, is that, look, I know there's going to be some haters in the comments, with LeBron haters, but I think LeBron is a perfect example of if he needs to take the tiniest bit of rest. Like, I know there's people who've been like, oh, he could have played, like, he's sitting, no, like, well, it was just his big toe, like, he's such a wimp. Nah, you know what he did? He looked at the bigger picture of his body and his career, right? Which you also can't argue, so save it. But he recognized and listened to that, like, what his body needed, and took that little bit of rest. Again, not scared of the criticism or hate about it, because he was like, look, you ain't gonna tell me about my body. I know it myself. So having all that said is if you have a body, you're an athlete, meaning every single day you're using it. So my advice to, yes, if there is an injury at play, or you do have a pressure related to your body, don't ever think that time lost and resting is time lost, because it's not. I always use that time to also get stronger in something else. Like when I've been injured, right now I have plantar fasciitis, to be fully transparent. I can't run right now, and that is my heart and soul, so it just hit me. But I'm using this time to really conquer mobility. There's so many tasks with your body. I'm not saying you have to live a life where you do all of it at once. It's not realistic. We all have jobs and families and responsibilities. But if you view your body as this fun project, we're constantly creating it. It's never done, right? If you're like, okay, you know what? This month is about me getting these hip flexors open, and I'm gonna be stretching them out a little more. Next month, man, I'm gonna be so good about getting in 10,000 steps a day. Or pick a thing. So if it is a physical injury, just know there's always a pivot, a modification. It is not a stop or roadblock, but it is the time that your body's making you look at things that you were maybe ignoring, those messages. The other part that I think is really exciting about like rest or recovery is all these other things. We live in a time, we have so much information available to us about how to heal our body. Like, you don't have to be a multimillionaire who has some laser and biometric this and a private, like, no. But you know what you have? You have ice in your feet. You got frozen peas, right? The power of even just, you know, anti-inflammatory modalities that we have at our fingertips. A cold shower, filling up your bathtub with cold water, and maybe doing like a pseudo cold plunge. It's not even pseudo, you could probably get cold enough, adding some ice in. Doing foam rolling, going and getting a massage. I know those things do come with a price, but not neglecting your body of all of these. We know these things work, and we know it helps put your body in a state of recovery. Every day you're using it, so you do have to recover. You can't, you literally can't expect it to function. It's like expecting your car to continue to go down the road and you never filling it back up.
And that speaks to, now if you are going on 10 all the time, you're always working and you don't give yourself actual sleep rest, but also sitting in the rest of stretching and those type of things where your body calms down. That type of rest, re-energize, what do they say?
Regenerate. Literally, that is when your cells are regenerate, when your body is doing the repairs.
When I did leave the hospital, they said the best thing for me was to sleep, and that back in the day, it used to be like if you have a headache or if you have a head injury, don't go to sleep. Because then, you know, that was like a fear with that. But so they said, actually go to sleep so that it can, my brain was inflamed.
Super inflamed,
so that it could go down. But that's where you sleep, and rest is where your body, like she said, regenerates, but it also was able to reset itself. So with all of that, please stop going at 10, the physical treadmill of life. Stop going at that speed, because you can physically hurt yourself, but you also need to physically rest yourself.
In a training program, in a fitness journey, even if you're not in the gym and you're watching this and you spend your all day, every day working, that's the equivalent. Like, you gotta balance the other half to all that with rest. And the last analogy I'll leave you with is, because I'm sure we've all done this, you have a whole bunch of tabs open on your computer. I got like 10 open right now, and then your computer starts working a little slower. And then eventually it's just like, man, start acting a fool, right? You have to stop operating all day, every day with those 12 tabs open and never taking the time to close a few, or actually just reboot your computer. Or how about put the top down, plug it in, turn it off, and then give it opportunity to just sort itself out. When you open it, maybe open 2 tabs at a time. You have to start training your body that way. We're living in a time where we are bombarded with like 80 tabs at once, and I get how difficult it is to then decipher what's important or how to operate, how to be successful, how to get all these things accomplished and all of this pressure. But the reality is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot get anywhere if your body said, we're gonna sit right here. So start listening to it.
And with that, take some time after you watch this and map out your week to plan in your rest times, because if you plan it, you won't skip it. Boom. I want to thank you all. Thank you, Emily, for coming on this episode here and keeping me in line and alive, because if it wasn't for her, I don't know where I would have been, had that happened somewhere else. I will leave the information for Emily's, her show, her workout series. Y'all need to tap into that. Thotty Body's coming, and her IG, and all the ways that you can connect with her, because she is a great source to learn from and to utilize in terms of overall wellness in your body. But I will catch you all next time on The Jump Off. Thank you all, and remember,
take your ass to bed.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not what I was gonna say, but yeah, get that sleep. 8 hours, 6 hours, 4 really, 6, 8, 8,
8.
8.
8 hours.
We gonna land the plane here.